Ticket number 17208, Inst function URL transparency. Show legacy function type IDs in user visible URLs. So if we come to instrumented systems, let's come to the alarm list and let's open one of these alarms in a new tab. If we click on that tab and we look at the URL, we can see the type ID is alarm. If we now take a look at the non-linked functions, we have a hips function here. If we open that in a new tab, we can see that the type ID here is hips. Let's come back to our original window and we'll open a SIF in a new tab. And we can see the type ID in the URL is SIF. Let's come back to the original window and open the LOPA module. Let's go to the Beverly Hills facility and the IPL register template. If we hover over a function ID here in the URL, we can see the type ID is SIF. Let's scroll to the bottom, move across to a barrier, and let's hover over a barrier, and we can see the URL type ID is equal to barrier. Ticket number 17200, WebView Session Sharing and Generic Async Loading in WebView mode. So to improve security, we've replaced shared cookie security with short-lived assigned tokens and enabled reports and grids to load in the background, making WebViews both more secure and significantly faster without changing existing embedded URLs or breaking current WebViews. This also introduces configurable link expiry, prevents session sharing and URL tampering, enforces read-only access for external users, preserves internal user sessions, improves error handling, and reduces initial page load time from up to 50 seconds down to nearly instant. So if we come to the Operate and Maintain module and we come to the SIF Evaluation KPIs report, let's select a site, a unit, and we'll select all SIFs and generate the report. If we now choose to create a web view, we now have the option to set a web view lifetime. If we leave this empty, then it will never expire. But for this example, let's just set 1 day and apply the lifetime and then copy the WebView URL. Let's open a new browser and paste the WebView URL. And you'll note the reports load significantly faster now. And if the user tries to access a web view that has expired, they'll be greeted by this window informing them that the WebView link is invalid or has expired. Ticket number 17167, setting old test groups as inactive so as to keep historical associated events. So test group reports now display only test groups with an active status. A test group set to inactive no longer appears in the relevant reports, which lets an old test group be retired whilst keeping its historical events. The reports that have been modified are the upcoming tests, upcoming test look ahead, test due by month, test due by overdue and on schedule, and test groups with no I/O. So if we come to the Operate and Maintain module, let's come to the reports, let's search for upcoming, and select upcoming tests. So if we select the site, the unit, and we'll leave these start and end dates as January the 1st, 2026, and the end date July the 1st, 2026. Click Generate. And we can see in this report we've got two test groups here, Test Group 1, Test Group 2. So let's open Test Group 1 in a new tab. We can see the test group status is currently set to active. Let's change that to inactive and save the changes. If we now come back to our report, let's rerun. And we can see in the report now, we only have test group 2 because test group 1 has been set to inactive. Ticket number 17157, HAZOP Review tab, column selection request. So in the global module, users can now configure which fields are displayed in the HAZOP deviations and scenarios table, which is in the facilitation tab of the HAZOP module, and the HAZOP scenarios table, which is in the review tab within the same area. So if we come to the global module and we come to a site, we scroll down to module configuration, we can see the HAZOP deviations and scenario fields. So if we click here and we'll deselect some of these, we'll just leave the mark scenario and parameter fields, save the changes. If we then come to the HAZOP module and we come down to a HAZOP study, if we come to the facilitation tab, you can see in this HAZOP deviations and scenarios table, we have the mark scenario and the parameter, which we selected. The scenario ID will always be there by default. If we now come to the review tab and we look at this HAZOP scenarios table, you can see we have the mark scenario and parameters. First 5 fields will always be shown by default. Ticket number 17087, request to have additional table charts added to dashboard for selection. The table charts in question are the test due by overdue and on schedule, and the test due by month. So if we come to the operate and maintain module, we come to the enterprise level and we customize dashboard. We have a 2-column layout. Let's filter the reports for test due by, and we can see our 2 table reports here. If we drag those across and save the changes, we can see that those 2 table reports have been added to the dashboard.